right? Let's put that verse up there. This is the verse we've been working on, this armor of God passage. Have you heard it? Don't stop me if you've heard this one. But yeah, we've been working on the armor of God for several weeks. We're going to finish this thing up sometime soon. And I just want to start out by saying I actually did go to Europe this summer. I don't know if you were around when I went, but I did go. And one thing about Europe is that every village, it seems like, has its own castle. There's always a castle. You walk 20 yards, oh, there's another castle. You know, you kind of get bored of it after a while, but it's really cool at first. And some of the ones that are, you know, still intact, still standing, you get to tour them, right? So you go up to the top, and the thing is, you can't go to a castle and walk around the perimeter. What do they call that thing? I can't even remember, but what'd you call it? No, up top on the wall, the parapet or something. Anyway, you walk around the top of this thing, and you can't help but picture every B movie you've ever seen where there's a siege, right? Like you're wondering, why did they build this way? Who's coming? What was it like to be up here and have all these people rushing with ladders and, you know, machinery and launching stuff? And I don't know if you know this or not, but the point of a castle is that in a village, there are all these houses. And occasionally, there were these people that would show up that wanted to come over to your house for dinner. But you didn't want them to come over for dinner, but they're like, no, we're coming anyway. And so they'd gather everybody up into the castle, and they'd, you know, post people to walls. And these unwanted dinner guests would show up, and they'd say, no, we're coming to your house for dinner today. We're going to eat your food. And you're like, no, I don't think so. And so you'd stand up on the wall, and you'd wait. And you'd wait till they got a little closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And then when they got close enough to maybe touch the wall, you let some stuff loose, right? Some boulders, okay, some hot boiling oil, that was a favorite. And you're like, boiling oil, what's the big deal about that? Well, have you ever tried to fry bacon without a shirt on, okay? It's like it's a bad deal. And just imagine a whole bucket of it being poured on your head, right? Boiling oil. And this was a real favorite. This is a real favorite. You get that oil poured all over the place, anywhere you can along the side of the wall, and some guy, some archer, stands up there, probably a handful of them, and they dip their arrow tip in some pitch or something, and they wind some cloth around it, kind of weave it into the bit at the end, and they set it on fire. And then they let it loose. Okay, they let it loose. So all that boiling oil, you know, all of a sudden people are soaked in it, all of a sudden, bam, they're on fire. And the whole point of that is to get everybody that's touching that wall to come to the same conclusion: this isn't worth the trouble. This is really not worth the trouble. Everything that happens along that wall is all set to make you say, you know what? I don't think I want to be here anymore. You know, I thought this was going to be a little easier. It's meant to create panic and shock. You know, when an arrow that's on fire hits your friend in the chest and is burning them alive next to you, you know, there's a certain something that goes off in your head like, like I'm out of here. I didn't think that was going to happen. That's the point. That's the point of the flaming arrow. It's shock and it's awe. It's meant to make people retreat. And so we look at this verse in the armor of God, and Paul is picturing for us this Roman soldier. And I'm telling you, you need to know the flaming arrow was not something that you had to worry about while you were sitting on your haunches at home. You know, people didn't just show up with flaming arrows at the garrison, but it was an offensive problem. And when you went to take territory, when you went to lay siege on a new place and claim it, you had to have your shield with you. You had to have a shield with you, and you had to get it up. Paul's written to us that life isn't really a fight against people, right? It's not a war against flesh and blood. He said that further back in the letter, remember? It's not really about people. It's really about somebody behind the scenes working through people to get their will done. And this shield of faith, he says, needs to be with you, and you need to get it up. You need to raise it. Because if you're going to have impact in the world around you, if you're going to be part of this Jesus mission, if you're going to share the truth, if you're going to go cause some trouble, you should expect some defensive maneuvers. You should expect something to happen to get you to turn around and go home, quit, walk back empty-handed. It should be expected. I mean, who would lay siege to a castle full of people and expect that they could just walk up to the wall and touch it and go, I think we'll just go over the top. Look, it's not realistic, right? Paul says, man, you better have that shield up and expect defensive maneuvers. You should expect something that will cause you some panic internally. You should expect something that you didn't expect, that you did not see coming in a million years. You should expect something to shock you. You should expect something to be done that causes you to be terrified for whatever's next, for the future. You should expect something to occur that will make you kind of suffer in your mind a little bit and wrestle against your own weaknesses. You should expect something to torment your heart a little bit, somebody to jab you or nudge you in your weakest places. What was I thinking? I can't be here. I can't do this. That's the point. That's the point. Now, I know, listen, everybody that's a Christian, has been a Christian for a little while, has known somebody who blames the devil for everything, right? Like, where did my keys go? The devil did. The devil took my keys. No, the devil didn't take your keys, okay? Your bad memory lost your keys, okay? That's what, the devil gave me cancer. I think the cigarettes may have given you cancer, honestly. There's a warning on the back of the pack, right? I'm not saying everybody gets cancer, it's their fault, so don't misquote me or something crazy, right? But I understand people tend to overblame the devil for the wrong things. But we totally underblame the devil for the very things that he actually uses. Have you ever noticed, I've noticed, okay, when somebody becomes a Christian, actually says, you know what, I step over the line, I ask God for forgiveness, I submit my life to Him, whatever way that takes me. Oh, it's like clockwork. Bam, something happens. Bam, all these people show up at just the wrong time. People from your past, people from your current who are just obnoxious, so they step it up a notch. People that tempt you in ways you haven't been tempted in a very long time. It's not an accident. It's a maneuver. Expect maneuvers. Start a new ministry. Try that out sometime. Start a new ministry. Try it. Help somebody that nobody else is helping. Go speak into their life for a while. Make a commitment to show up and help youth or help your friend or help your neighbor. Do it for a while. See what happens. And I'm not trying to scare you from it. I'm just trying to prepare you for it and help you to understand that when those things go on, and when people start saying things that, wow, where did that come from? When people start threatening you in ways, kind of offhanded, when people tempt you at your weakest point, when it's too good to be true because it is too good to be true, those sorts of things happen. It's not an accident. It's an expectation. It's going to be some trouble. It's going to be some flaming arrows. I don't know what your flaming arrows look like exactly. There's too many people in here. Right? I can't call it all out. But maybe, if you ask God to show you, and that's not maybe, He will, if you ask God to show you and help you discern some things, you may actually see the pattern. The lights may come on. Wow, I was doing so well, and then all of a sudden, where did things go wrong? Where did things go wrong? Man, I've known so many people. I've seen so many people begin discipleship and begin faith, and they're doing so well, and they're just cranking away, and it's amazing. And all of a sudden, some person shows up from their past, and all of a sudden it's got them all messed up. And here's what happens: the shock disrupts your discipline. It disrupts you. Just like when you're outside those city walls and you're charging and trying to get over the ladder. The shock is meant to stop you and put some distance between the one that gives you the life and gives you the power and you. It just happens that way. And so many times, your instinct kicks in and you say, you know what? you just gotta quit everything that you were doing that got you into trouble in the first place. Which is the plan. That's the point. First off, I just want to commend you if that's where you find yourself, okay? You start doing some good. You start going after it. You get involved. You speak life into people. You love them like crazy. You work on reconciling relationships that need the work. You get into that. Something happens and it just kind of floors you, or you didn't see it coming. I just want to commend you. You were doing something worth causing trouble. Like you were doing something that was a threat. It's real. It's not for no reason. I'm telling you what, people say this, and this may sound hokey, but the devil doesn't get too worked up about people that really aren't doing too much. Why mess them up? They're already on the wrong path. I mean, they're doing, they're just perfect pawns. But when people start getting involved and activated and engaged, oh boy. I think the first thing I want you to hear today, really, the first thing I want you to remember is just when you run into that kind of trouble, when you're on the right path and you're doing the right things, you're not being punished. It's a maneuver. Expect maneuvers. Assume it's a maneuver. No, the devil didn't make you lose your keys, but the devil may have done some work to speak in, idle threats through some person that's having an off day, or, all the people at work suddenly hate you. Like, what is going on? That pressure, that panic, that shock, anything that causes fear and anxiety for really no good reason. Where did it come from? How did that happen? Think about it. Think about it. But the second thing I want you to take today is something that I don't know if you're going to agree with this or not, okay? Because it's like, oh, wait a minute. Are we supposed to be talking about violence? But here's the thing. I better not admit to that in public. Hold on. So, I learned some things about fighting a long time ago. I'll put it that way. You don't need to know how. I just did. All right? Or maybe you can relate to it. Maybe you're, when you were 5 years old, did your dad come alongside and be like, this is how you fight. If you ever get in a fight, this is how you got to fight. What is like the number one thing that they tell you if you get in a fight, can't get away out of a fight, you find your way in a fight, what do? Whatever happens, what do they say? Don't stop swinging. Don't stop swinging. Boom, hit in the face. Doesn't matter. You got to keep hitting. You got to keep swinging, right? You got to finish this thing out. If you quit, if you just back up, nobody can throw a punch backing up at the same time. I'm telling you, try it. Try it. You can't do it. You can't do it. One of the most important things, I think, and maybe this was from some bad advice at the beginning, but it's actually good wisdom in the Word, is that when you take a hit, when you take a shock, the thing to do is not to just retreat. It's not to just quit doing everything that you were doing that was good because, ow, and walk off and go home. Well, again, I got to be careful how I tell this story. You're going to think ill of me. One thing I learned was that if you're not an experienced fighter, look, if you get in a fight, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get hit one way or another. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Somebody's going to actually hit you in the head. I remember the first time somebody punched me in the head. My first thought was, ow! Where did that come from? Ow! Dang, I don't want that to happen again. So your first thought is, well, the next time that happens, I'm gonna block it. I'm gonna be ready. And I'm gonna see every punch coming. I'm gonna stop every punch. Here's the problem: you can't do it. Nobody's that good. Nobody's that fast. But I'll tell you what I did learn is that if you want to slow somebody down, if you want to stay on the offensive, the thing to do is to step back, and you have one job. You watch that head, okay? You watch that. Don't put your head anywhere else. You got to have your eye on that head. And when somebody's about to punch you, you know what they do? They move their hands away from their face because they're about to hit you, right? So you just look for that opening. You look for that opening every time. You're like, as soon as I see a hand move away from a face, bam, I'm going to get him. Slip the jab, baby. Jab, 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 jab. I knew I shouldn't have told the story. I don't care if I get hit. I'm going to train you to believe as soon as you go for a punch, every time you make a punch, you're going to get hit in the face. Every single time you move that fist, you're going to get hit in the face. Because I have an opening, it's going to be immediate, and it's going to be terrible. Boom, hit in the face. It's real, right? Now, how does that translate to help you? I have no idea. No, I'm just kidding. I'm asking you to think about it maybe a different light, okay? That maybe over time, Jesus wants to train you to not just retreat, not just, run away, not just, protect yourself, but when you're on the offensive, doing good in the world, and something happens, don't stop swinging. It should be your first response. Keep going. Keep going. Keep your fists up. Keep them moving. Keep backing them up. Don't stop swinging. I know that's easier to say that than to do it. I know that. I know I'm a guy on a stage in some dress slacks and a dress shirt. I understand that. I understand that. Doesn't make it less true. Your first response, your first natural reaction by the devil's design is when you are engaged in something important and life-giving, giving encouragement, speaking truth and grace at the same time, being a helpful person while speaking the truth. Okay, your first reaction is going to be back up, back up, back up. Get away from the thing. Get away from the force. Don't quit. Quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. Keep moving. Keep moving. You'll back them up eventually. Keep moving. Last thing I want to say is really a bunch of things, so hang on to your seatbelt, okay? Because this is the most important part. You need to get your shield up and get it up fast. Don't quit up, don't give up, don't quit, don't back up, don't retreat, don't panic, but get that shield up. Get that shield of faith up. What does that mean? Hey, what does that really mean? Raise your shield of faith. And what is that? What is faith? It's trust, right? It's trust. If the person who called me into this situation in the first place is going to make good on his promises to me, he's going to make good on this relationship that he says I have. He's going to make good on heaven. He's going to make good on taking care of my needs, that they'll be met if I pursue his calling for me full force. It's going to be there. You've got to get that trust up. You're like, wow, that's really nice. But how do you do that? How do you get your trust up in somebody? I was like, I asked my wife over the weekend, I'm like, how do you get your trust up? You know, how do you do that? How do you do that? You need to remember who they are. You need to take stock of who they are by what? By what you've known them to do. What have you seen out of them? What have you witnessed in the past? What do you know for sure? That's really important in any relationship. When somebody is doing something or seems to be doing something, you don't quite get it, you don't quite know, you have to rely on trust. And in order to rely on trust, you actually have to know something about the person. You've got to have experience. As much as possible, this is better. You got to. But here's what I know. It's work to remember things in those moments. It really is. It takes training to remember those things in the right moments. Remember. But you know, here's 3 things I'm going to give you. A, B, C. Just listen. A, in those moments, you got to have a plan to talk to him and talk to his people, talk to him and his people, but reach out. You better be reaching out to talk to him. How do you firm up your trust in someone? The best thing to do is start talking to him. You know, if it's God, I mean, we're talking about God, right? I don't know if I can trust God. Why don't you go to him and tell him you're having an issue? See what he'll do. See what he'll say. See what he'll remind you of. See who he'll send to encourage you and lift you up again. Put your chin up again. Talk to him. Talk to his people. How many times have people been in the pits of despair, right? And they're in the pits of despair, and they sit there alone in the pits of despair, and really, really what they need is even just one person sitting next to them to go, you know, I know some of the things you feel are terrible, but some of the things you're thinking right now aren't true. Actually, that's not hopeless. Actually, it doesn't have to go down that way. Actually, I remember this about you, and I saw this, and I remembered what you said, and these things helped me. You helped me. You were helpful. Like, we need those conversations. But here's another thing you're going to need to do. You're going to need to remind yourself of what he's done. You're going to have to take some responsibility to remind yourself. Why do we study the Word of God? Like, so you'll have it in there, right? So you'll have it in there in memory, in those moments. You know, it's like recalling your training in those moments. You know, I'm struggling here, and then just like this verse, this truth, or this line from a message pops in there. Like, oh yeah, maybe this is that situation. Yes, it is. Wait a minute, back to work. You know, like that's why we do it. That's why people came up with hymns so long ago, right? These songs. You don't always have a band following you around, so they wrote songs that were easy to remember and easy for anybody to sing along with. And so they'd remember them. They'd be out in the hills working in the fields, and they'd sing these songs, remind themselves, and remember, what has God done? That's what all the hymns are about. What has God done? Who am I in the plan? Whatever you need to do, to remember, it kind of leads right into the last piece, which is you need to train all the time. You need to train all the time. I don't know what your idea of commitment is. I don't know exactly what you practice at home. Maybe some of you I do. But you know, when I was younger and I was getting to know more of these contemporary Christians, right? Man, those guys are weird. They thought I was weird too. But I would look at and I'd get in the car and ride with somebody, and their radio station was already pre-tuned to K-Love on one of the pre-selected channels. You know, I'm just like, oh, really? Like, oh, I can't listen to this stuff. You know, oh, it's so sugary and sweet and sappy, and I'm like, man, I can't listen to this. But I started to realize something. These people would have Bible verses put all over their walls or mirrors and things, and they'd be, anytime they had a chance, they'd be listening to some Christian music someplace, and like, does it have to be all the time? Yes, it does. And not that you have to listen to Christian music 24/7, I'm not that guy, okay? But they'd have it all over the place. They were carrying their Bibles with them. They had them in a pocket someplace. They had a pocket version. They had a glove box version. I'm like, why do you have to be around this stuff all the time? It's training.
Yes, sir.
It was training. They saw life this way. I could get in a situation that could catch me by surprise. I didn't see that coming. Bam, whack. I want to remember what I need to remember just as soon as I need to remember it. I want to have all of the stories that I could possibly understand in the Word. I want to have them at my beck and call if I need to pull them out and remember, so that I can continue to trust my God through the trial. That's why we do it. That's why we're so crazy. That's why we have groups that talk about the Word even more. That's why we talk about stuff. That's why we pray together. That's why we have prayer meetings. Well, part of it, right? Part of it. That's why we get together. That's why we intentionally spend time together. That's why we help people together, because there's power in training yourself to remember through all these sources, through all these places and spaces. when you get into some trouble, you remember, I'm not beaten. I'm not beaten. I'm not just conquerors, I'm co-heirs with Christ. This war's already won. I just got to show up and keep swinging. You know, if you've been struggling a little bit, I just want to encourage you. If you have a regimen, okay, something that helped you for a time, get back into it. If you need to listen to K-Love 24/7, then listen to positive, encouraging K-Love 24/7. I don't care. Like, it's a little sappy for me, but listen. It helps. Hearing people's stories helps. I do that all day, right? Whatever you need to do to get in front of the Word, whatever you need to do to remind yourself of the Word and remember things that are true for you personally, I'm telling you, you need to do it. Get in there, practice it, make it a point. Get it every day you're in the shower, reading verses in the shower. I don't care. Do whatever you got to do. How much is enough? I don't know if there is such a thing. Because life is kind of hard. The more you train, the quicker you'll see what's happening for what's happening. You'll remember quicker. You get back up quicker. You hit back quicker. You keep going better. Now, that's sort of the end of the message. In a few minutes, we're going to take communion. That's why these cups are out here. Okay? Yeah. So these got the little piece of bread.
Yeah.